What's the biggest mistake that I see founders and entrepreneurs make when they're forming a company? And I would say the most common mistake that I see is that they do not execute and prepare properly a shareholders agreement for a corporation or an operating agreement for an LLC. This document is so important. So what is a shareholders agreement? A shareholders agreement summarizes the rights and obligations of the shareholders, the founders and the entrepreneurs, to the company. And it is very fundamental because if there is eventually a dispute between the partners, the shareholding agreement governs how the dispute is resolved between the parties and what is the dispute resolution mechanism. It lays out everybody's rights. So it's really a critical document when there's a dispute, because that's the first thing that we're going to look at. If there is no shareholders agreement in place, then what governs is New York State default law. If you form your entity in another state, then that state law governs the dispute. So really, when you're forming a company with other people, you have an opportunity to determine what rules will apply to your company's operations. And generally speaking, the content of the shareholders agreement overrides default state law to some extent. There are exceptions, but generally speaking, you actually get to decide how everything's going to be resolved. In this document, it'll lay out the ownership percentage between the parties. It'll lay out the dispute resolution mechanism in case there's a dispute. It lays out parties' obligations, such as if the company needs money, how are our contributions going to be made, who makes them, and how much. It also describes board meetings and shareholder meetings and how they're conducted. And, for example, is there notice that's required? Who has to attend in order to hold a vote at the board level? And so these are really critical details that a company needs. Most importantly, for most entrepreneurs that we deal with, is dividends. When are dividends paid? Are they year end? Also, like voting, what's the voting rights between the parties? Because maybe a party might have more rights to the equity in the company, but they might have less voting rights. So there's so many questions that and details that should be thought through carefully before you're launching your company. And I see over and over, many clients come to us when it's far too late. There's already a dispute between the partners in the company, and they ask us what to do next. And one of the first questions we always ask them is there a signed, executed shareholders agreement? And if there is, great. If there isn't, then we have to look at default state law. So yeah, I strongly advise all our clients to always carefully consider whether whether they should execute and prepare a shareholders agreement or an operating agreement.